Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Chonza. Thank you for joining us. The Metis Major Project Summit wrapped up in Ottawa this afternoon. We now join APTN's Fraser Needham, who is outside the downtown location where the meeting was held. Fraser, so we know the Manitoba Métis Federation boycotted the meeting because the Métis Nation of Ontario was there. How did the participants address this?
Well, to be honest, it was really kind of a non-issue. Of course, the Métis Nation of Ontario and Métis Nation of Alberta, both Margaret Froh and Andrew Sandbar, both sort of support the Métis Nation of Ontario being there. So they were, said it's really the choice of the MMF to do this, and they both recognize, of course, that organization. Also, and the federal government has, has in recent years recognized the Métis Nation of Ontario. So, of course, they're open to meeting with the MMF, but that's about all that was said about that particular issue.
Okay. And what was the general mood coming out of the meeting? Did the Métis leaders seem happy with what transpired?
Yeah, they really did. I think they're, typically, and as you know, in the history that the federal government always has, it's been really provincial governments have recognized Métis governments. So they've, that continues this on. So I think they're very happy to be part of this agreement, and it just kind of shows, I think they're interested in any sort of economic development money they can get as part of these projects that the Prime Minister has talked about. So they generally very receptive to Bill C-5, much more so than First Nations, or some First Nations anyway, and they want to clearly work with the government on this.
That's interesting. So, Fraser, what happens now? Do we have any idea where the Indigenous Advisory Council will be set up and who will sit on it?
Not really. Of course, they have committed. The Prime Minister's committed to setting this up by Labor Day, so that's quite soon. We're talking in a few weeks or so. Both Minister Alty, the Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, and Minister Galmasti, both who is obviously the Indigenous Services Minister, didn't really say too many details, so they're keeping it pretty tight-lipped for now. But they said there will be details forthcoming on that council in the coming weeks.
Okay. And why were some organizations invited as observers instead of participants, like the Métis Nation of BC and the Métis National Council?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of funny. They made, we just talked about the Métis Manitoba Federation, being invited, but deciding not to participate because of other the Métis Nation of Ontario being invited. But it was really the Métis National Council was invited as an observer, but I think most of the Métis governments are fine with that, and the organization itself, it's kind of represents all Métis governments in Canada, and I think they were perfectly fine being an observer status. But the real kind of sort of hitch in this whole thing was the Métis Nation of BC, that clearly the government does not want to recognize. We did pose this question to Minister Alty, and she simply said they haven't met Section 35 standard yet as an Indigenous government. I know there are some court challenges, but the interesting thing on their recognition going on that others have written about, but the interesting thing is they were part of the Métis National Council, as you know, until recently, so clearly they were recognized by bodies that the government recognized in the National Council, and yet that doesn't seem to be good enough for Ottawa at this point, so we'll have to see what happens down the road. I think we'll probably hear from the Métis Nation of BC more on this, because they did issue a press release that they were, they were invited as an observer, but very disappointed in that, and so decided not to participate.
Okay. Well, we'll need to leave it there, Fraser, but thank you so much for shedding some light on this for us.
Thank you.
To Winnipeg now, where the family of the late Ashley Shingoose will finally be able to share their grief with the judge who put her murderer behind bars. It's an important opportunity they were denied during the serial killer's court proceedings last summer, when Shingoose's identity was still unknown and was simply referred to as Mushkade Bijiki Ikwe, or Buffalo Woman, in the first-degree murder charges. Year-old Ashlee Shingoose went missing in March of 2022 in downtown Winnipeg. It was around this time that 3 other First Nations women were murdered by Jeremy Skibicki, who was served a life sentence in 2024. Shingoose is believed to be the first victim. Her family searched for answers regarding her disappearance for years, believing she may be Buffalo Woman. DNA evidence as well as post-sentencing assistance from Skibicki confirmed her identity in March of this year. The Manitoba Court of King's Bench says at the request of the Crown, a hearing will be held August 15th to receive the victim and community impact statements of her family and community. They say it is a process both appropriate and necessary given the exceptional circumstances of the trial. It is believed her remains lay in Winnipeg's Brady Road landfill. The province of Manitoba has previously announced it will search the landfill for Shingoose's remains. Meanwhile, the family of Ashley Shingoose is thanking everyone who supported them throughout their long and painful journey. The family also extended their gratitude to Chief Justice Glenn Joyal, to the court, and to all of those who continue to stand with the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. In a statement released with support of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, the Shingoose family said, quote, "This upcoming hearing will be an emotional and deeply personal moment for our family as we are given the opportunity to present our victim impact statements before the court, an opportunity that should have been granted long ago." While Ashley was previously identified only as Mushkete Bijiki Ikwe, or Buffalo Woman, we are grateful that her identity has now been formally recognized, allowing her voice and our pain as a family to be acknowledged in a meaningful way. The family has asked for privacy and continued prayers. Meanwhile, a Winnipeg police officer arrested last year for theft and obstruction of justice was arrested again yesterday and is facing some disturbing new charges. 48-year-old Constable Elston Bostock has been charged with committing an indignity to human remains, possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking, and breaking and entering for the purpose of committing extortion. Bostock is accused of taking a photo of a recently deceased, partially clothed female with his personal cell phone, of being involved in 84 different drug transactions between 2016 and 2024, and of breaking into a building with the intention of threatening tenants with unauthorized evictions. Bostock remains in custody. None of the charges have been proven in court. Chief of Police Jen Bowers had this to say.
These are very serious allegations which go directly against the values of the Winnipeg Police Service, tarnishing our reputation and eroding the public's confidence within our service. These allegations are clearly not representative of the actions of our dedicated members who bravely serve the community with integrity, professionalism, and pride day in and day out.
The First Nations Bank of Canada is announcing that it has successfully closed a $9 million equity investment deal by 5 Indigenous investors. The First Nations Bank says the new capital will support the bank's continued loan book expansion, and it plans to use the new capital to meet the ever-growing demand for lending from Indigenous governments, entrepreneurs, and businesses from across the country. The 5 Indigenous-led organizations who provided the funds include Whitefish Lake First Nation, Ujo Developments, Doig River First Nation, Dana Gilly Trust, and Athabasca Basin Development. Bill Lomax, the president and CEO for First Nations Bank of Canada, says the investments will help accelerate economic reconciliation and drive more prosperity to Indigenous communities.
If you look back even 20 years ago, Canadian Indigenous groups really were just getting started from a business standpoint. So, it was band offices and gas stations, right? Now we see manufacturing groups, out there doing, metalwork. Pro Metal, for example, is a great example of that kind of thing. We see up in the Yukon, we see all sorts of businesses going. It's actually one of our busiest areas. We see a wide range of businesses, from hotels to service centers, construction service centers. So it's really pretty exciting.
Lomix says they are excited to continue to serve the Indigenous community and are set to break more financial records later this year. The First Nations Bank of Canada was founded in 1996. It's 88% Indigenous owned and is focused on providing financial services to the Indigenous marketplace in Canada. This week, our Truth in Politics panel takes a deeper look at Métis consultation regarding Bill C-5. You can hear their thoughts after this break. But first,
I'm Chris Stewart. The Alberta Court of King's Bench is now allowing smudging inside their courthouses across the province. And longtime Indigenous advocate court worker Lucy Johnson says this will help families who need the support.
It's about damn time. We need things in that courtroom to ease the flow of tragedy, of crime, and anything that we can do to help the families wholeheartedly, respectfully, and in our Cree culture, that's a blessing to us.
That's coming up in the coming days on the APTN National News.
Métis leaders are in Ottawa today for a meeting with the Prime Minister and some of his cabinet over Bill C-5. However, the summit is more notable for who isn't there. As we reported earlier, the Manitoba Métis Federation isn't going because the Métis National Council and Métis Nation of Ontario will be there. Métis Nation British Columbia also backed out because they were only invited as online observers. For more, our Truth in Politics panel is here. Jennifer Leowitz is CEO of Pasqua Strategies, and Nigon Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Thanks to you both for being here. Nigon, we'll start with you. Was this entirely predictable that the Manitoba Métis Federation would pull out of the summit depending on who was at the table?
Well, for anyone who was watching or has watched anything that the MMF has said or that the MNC has said over the past 5 years or so, if you weren't aware this was going to happen, then I would fire whoever is advising you. Clearly, the government had either no idea or no interest in the fact that the MMF just simply won't sit with individuals from the Métis Nation of Ontario or certain members of the Métis National Council. If you aren't aware of that, then you just aren't aware of what has been an issue that has been gripping the Indigenous world, and particularly our world as Indigenous media members for the past half decade or so.
Yeah, you know, Jennifer, as Nigon kind of alluded to there, this infighting has been going on for a very long time. Should the federal government not have known this could happen?
You would think that they would know that this was happening. You know, the Métis National Council and the Métis Nation of Ontario have been, you know, across headlines for as long as I can remember in regards to identity and the issue that they have actually connecting a lot of the members of the Métis Nation of Ontario to the Red River. And there are those complex dynamics amongst our people. And I'm just not understanding Carney's team on this one. And, you know, even with Métis politics in general, perhaps they should have went to the table independently. And, you know, this entire summit and the way everything was organized, it was bound to be controversial in the fact that they, I think, just tried this one size fits all approach, knowing that everybody was going to have a different stance on this, especially as independent or self-governments.
Nigon, do you think the MMF and MNBC and its citizens lose out by not being at the summit?
Well, if the Carney government decides to move forward, then they certainly will. It certainly indicates that there is not a whole lot of interest from the Carney government of looking at intricacies involving rights holders, and that there are particular individual groups that recognize regional interests. But unfortunately, this is also something that we saw with the Chiefs meeting. There wasn't a lot of interest in thinking about things regionally, geographically, or even in many cases culturally. And there are 640 plus First Nations, just recognized ones. There are hundreds of Métis communities, and then there are hundreds of communities who claim to be Métis, but other Métis say are not Métis. So we're not sure what to refer to them appropriately. And they are, in particular cases, also have some ways in which they are identifying as rights holders, whether they are or not, I guess, is for First Nations to decide, for the courts to decide. All of this leads to a big issue of, I think the Carney government overestimated the sense of urgency that First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples would have when it comes to Trump. I think we're not going to give up our rights, even if there is an unprecedented situation in the country. Canada still has to act differently than it's acted for the past 150 years.
Jennifer, do you think the way this has played out could impact projects proposed in Manitoba and securing the MMF's consent for those projects?
I think there could definitely be impacts in terms of, advocacy or protesting or things getting even more heated or negative, maybe, I guess, on the Liberal government. I don't think that they really knew what they were doing going into this bill. But at the same time, it also goes back to us as a people too, and our way of how we communicate with government as independent self-governments, because I'm seeing with the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan right now where we're not even sure what route they're going to go on this, but it's because everything is such a disaster on that front that it's like when things are messy like that, I wholeheartedly believe that the federal government is watching and hoping that kind of takes the wheel and distracts a lot of people. And then they also have that kind of excuse on their end. Well, they're like, well, none of them can seem to get along, the MMF and the MNS and MNBC and MNO. It's like, oh, just another day, more controversy. And that's kind of the problem too, when our, internal governments almost get, unstable, or they present as unstable. And then it's like, well, what is the federal government thinking right now? And are they actually going to use that to their advantage? I would hope not, but I don't put anything above the government.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there and continue the conversation over on the podcast, but thanks both for sharing your thoughts on this.
Yeah, we watch. Thanks.
Thanks.
We need to take one last break now. We'll see you in just a few moments. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Frog Lake, Alberta is where Jean-Marie Berland snapped this photo of the setting sun slowly creeping downward behind a cloud-covered skyline. Thanks for sharing. Send us your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Let's see what tomorrow looks like. It'll be very sunny on the East Coast, 23 in St. John's, 26 in Halifax. We have 29 in sun in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, but it will be raining in 28 in Kuujjuaq. 27 in Quebec City and 33 in Montreal, lots of sun there. Sunny in southern Ontario as well, 29 in London and Toronto. 22 in Wawa, 18 in Big Trout Lake. Puckatawagan is a sunny 26 and 12 in Churchill. 36 in Winnipeg, 26 in Barons River. Some rain in Saskatchewan, 20 in Estevan, 19 in Saskatoon. Stony Rapids is 28 and sunny, 23 in rain in Meadow Lake. 25 in Fort Chipewyan, 28 in High Level. 21 in Calgary, 23 in Edmonton, lots of sun. 19 and sunny in Vancouver, 24 in sun in Quesnel. Smithers will be 17, a little bit of cloud, and 26 in sun in Fort Nelson. Old Crow, 14, 18 in rain in Watson Lake. 22 in Yellowknife, 16 in sun in Norman Wells. 1 and a bit of cloud in Sax Harbor, 13 in sun in Colville Lake. Chesterfield, 16, Cambridge Bay, 6. Iqaluit is a sunny 10 degrees, and it will be 2 in Resolute. For over 60 years, the Wikwemikong powwow on Manitoulin Island in Ontario has attracted dancers and singers from across Turtle Island. APTN's Annette Francis introduces us to a few who are well seasoned on the powwow trail and a few who are forging new adventures.
Wikwemikong's powwow celebration is held every August long weekend at the Thunderbird Park. Bruce Smoke and his family make the track here each powwow season from Alderville First Nation. They're a tight-knit group.
I have two grown boys now. One is the lead singer of the Charging Horse Singers. My other son is singing with them right now, and they're both full-grown men. And then I have two full-grown daughters, and we have 11 grandchildren in total, and they all participate in some way of dancing or singing, or we have even a little toddler that's still in diapers, but he's always around the drum and dancing and seeing all the outfits and everything all the time, and they listen to powwow music at home. And
according to Smoke, it's become a way of life. The love for drumming and dance began when he was a young teenager growing up in Toronto. He's been coming to this powwow since the 1970s.
Maybe in 1976, I was here. We came with a group from Hamilton, and we competed here, and we were lucky enough to place at the time. So it was pretty interesting. And when you place and feel that competition and kind of stuff, it gets into your blood and just makes you want to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So.
Smoke's granddaughter Clarity is thankful for the life on the trail.
Without powwow, I don't know what I would be doing, right? Without learning the things that I did learn, especially from my grandparents, I don't know where I would be, because there's so much kindness and so much love, especially when you travel with family, or even if you don't and you build your own family here in the different powwows and stuff, you're able to build that sense of community.
Nina Toulouse from Whitefish River First Nation has been jingle dress dancing for 3 years. A year after her mother passed away, she was gifted a red dress. It's been a healing journey.
Like, okay, that's another way of advocating for missing American Indigenous women and girls. And not only for them, but for my mother too as well, and for my own healing. So when I put that dress on, it's not only healing for me, but like I do that spirit work for all those who need that healing, and for those women who are still lost and still needing to return back home.
Sky Ngueo Owen Mayo has been on the trail for about 10 years. It's his first time at the Wikwemikong powwow.
It's literally just perfect, you know. I love the whole sense of camping, and it brings back those old memories, right? You know, back in those, for me, the 90s, there was a lot more campers than there is like today, right? You know, we still have some camping, but it's kind of like nostalgic flashback to see so many people camping again. So it's been a wonderful time so far.
As this powwow wraps up, many of these dancers will be preparing for the next one. I'll have one more story from here. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Wikwemikong First Nation.
That brings us to the end of our newscast this terrific Thursday evening. I hope you were intrigued by the stories our reporters brought to you today. If you're looking for more information on an issue we shared, or to learn about other things impacting Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, please visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Sav Jonza, and from all of us here at APTN, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Take care.